the critics and your fear. There's no easy way to hear. And all the memories you love to bring, with all the things that you hate to scream. So tell me, hollow on the inside, there's no trying to hide from this monster inside me. So if you try to criticize me like the world defines me, image of what I have become.
Welcome back to another episode of the Browns Beat Podcast. Derek, the season is finally over. Oh man, wow. Derek, we have a lot of news to talk about today. Obviously, Kevin Stefanski fired, Andrew Berry staying, Browns picking 6 overall. We're going to get into all of that, and we're excited to get into all of that, trust me. However, we just want to take a moment and just, before we move on from this season, Derek, the season is over. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's such a tough question to answer because it's like, what do you say? What do you even say? You know, Tristan, we were talking a little bit, for those of you who are watching this, me and Tristan were talking a little bit before we hit record. Just the history just sucks. It's just a cycle of shit over and over and over and over. And it's so damn frustrating. As far as the season this year, I think it was an absolute joke. I think it was many different mishandling of things. Many different things were mishandled. From the quarterback situation from day one, from them pretending like they had a plan in this whole thing from day one. Let's start with that. That was an absolute joke. Absolute joke and embarrassment. You know, the construction of this roster this offseason was an absolute joke and embarrassment. And I understand, yes, Andrew Berry had an absolutely great draft, right? Finally. But, Tristan, when we talk about the offensive line depth, when we talk about the wide receiver room, when we talk about these things, it's inexcusable and it's embarrassing. And the fact that, Tristan, we're sitting here again a year later, a year removed from 3-14, and we're talking about 5-12. It was something that we expected, so I don't want to sit here and pretend like this was, you know, unknown. We knew this was coming. But Tristan, it's the how. It's the how. How did you get here? Why did you get here? That's what pisses me off. And listen, you can have a ship out there in the ocean with crazy tides and the waves whipping, and that's all well and good, but you have to know how to navigate that. And Tristan, the Browns this season, I feel like it was an absolute disaster. I'll be honest. That's not to say that there's not good things to take away. There's plenty of good things to take away from this year. But when you look at the big picture perspective, Tristan, we'll get into Stefanski here in a minute, but in the last 5 years, you have gone 8-9, 7-10, 11-6, 3-14, and 5-12. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke to this fan base. It's a joke to the city. And it's pitiful. It's pitiful. And quite frankly, what scares the hell out of me is, Tristan, I'm sitting here at 23 years old, and I'm afraid in a decade I'm going to be having the same conversations, and I'm going to be saying the same things over and over. And for those of you who are like, oh, you're just negative, because I used to be one of those people, right? I used to be one of those people. I'd hear a lot of the old heads talking about the Browns and being negative, and, you know, I would have that process of like, hey, try to look at it differently. Different people running the show, you know, it's not the same. But Tristan, what's so frustrating to me is I have absolutely zero faith and trust in this team and in this organization. I have none. I have none. And even if this does end up working out in the long run, like let's just say, next year the Browns win 8 or more games, and then the year after that 9 to 10, and we're kind of consistent as a winner. I'm gonna come to the conclusion that it was, I don't want to say all luck, but like, how do you have any faith or any stock in this team, how it's ran right now? So when you ask me the question, how do you feel? How are you supposed to feel? That's my question. That would be my question to, I guess not Kevin Stefanski, but to Andrew Berry, to Jimmy Haslam, to the structure of the Cleveland Browns organization. How am I supposed to feel? Please tell me. Please tell me. Because you are the ones that we have to point the fingers to. You're the ones that we have to look at. And Tristan, not to keep going, but I'll end with this. The last thing I said on the last podcast we did, this organization has the illusion of unity, and you don't know who is to blame because the messaging is mixed and matched. Well, guess what? Kevin Stefanski is now gone, which we're going to talk about that. But going forward, Andrew Berry has more power now. Paul D. Podesta's gone. Who do you think's in Jimmy's ear? So, I Tristan, there's a lot of things that could be said about this team. But again, that's my question. How am I supposed to feel? As a fan, how am I supposed to feel? As somebody who, we try to talk about this team and cover this team, how are we supposed to feel? Please tell me. Tell your season ticket holders. So, Tristan, how do you feel?
Wow. The question is, I'm kind of with you, man. Like, I don't know what to feel at this point other than just disappointment. One of the things that we talked about, Derek, was like, before we started recording, shortly before, was that year where 2020, Kev's first year, we had the playoff win in Pittsburgh, and then we were one play away from taking down the Kansas City Chiefs. And I can't help but look back at how I felt in that moment, and I felt like we were at the very beginning or like the middle of this mountain, and we were going to keep on ascending. And it's sad looking back now, knowing that we were at the peak, and that's what makes this so devastating, Derek, is, man, the hope I had then versus the hope I have now, and where it went. Derek, I'm kind of like you, where before, when I would hear like my uncle, my grandpa, my papa, whenever I would hear them talk about the Browns, they would always talk about how the bad was inevitable, that it's just what this team was, and it's what will always be, and it just sucks that we're loyal to this team. And during those times, they were still saying this, and I was sitting here like, nah, man, this is a different team. This is different. We've got a coach that's been around for years. We've got a GM that's been around for years. We haven't had this level of stability. Things are going to get better. We had tough situations come up, but we'll get over it. And, now I look at it today, and I have none of that optimism, none of that faith moving forward. I'm right there with you, Derek. I'm hopeless when it comes to this team. And it sucks, man. It sucks because I love this football team so much, and it's something that it's part of my family, and it just sucks that I can't have more from it, because, man, I want more. I want more so badly, and I think everybody that's listening to this can say the exact same thing. We want to feel the love, the passion from this team that we feel as though we give it. And that's just not something that's being echoed. It's falling on deaf ears. So you asked me how I'm feeling, Derek. I mean, yeah, it's pretty damn hopeless. There's some very, very dim light at the end of this tunnel, and it's mostly because of these rookies. But yeah, man, just a hopeless, bitter feeling when I think about this team and how it's been pretty much ever since the Deshaun Watson trade. And I cannot wait for a day where hopefully it just feels even slightly different, but I don't have optimism that that day will come.
Yeah, I completely agree. It is the most frustrating thing. It is one of the most frustrating things I think a human can do, is be a Cleveland Browns fan. And listen, I know we're about to talk about Kevin, but I've heard a lot of different fan bases. I live with a Cowboys fan. You know, they're a poverty team. They're going to be a poverty team because of Jerry Jones. You know, and we've heard plenty of other fan bases of teams say, oh, you don't even know. Yeah, we fucking do. Kiss my ass. Kiss my ass. I am so sick of, Tristan, I don't know if you've seen it. I've seen plenty of people who are, you know, fans of different teams just talking about nobody has it worse than us. No, because guess what? Good transition for you here. Tristan, I remember a day where I was very happy because I was thinking, you know what? We may not have our quarterback, but we have our general manager and we have our coach, and they're both young. They're both going to be here for a while. Kevin Stefanski just got a contract extension, and here we are now, yet another name for Jimmy Haslam to be paying off his contract years down the road, while another team is in place. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. And if you are a fan, even if you consider yourself slightly a fan of this team, you shouldn't be happy. The answer to the question is not, oh, well, the Browns suck. No. Demand better. Demand better. Whatever that looks like. I'm not saying, you know, go throw bricks through windows, but somebody's got to hold them accountable. Somebody. If you don't want to name names, if you don't want to tell us, if you want to say, oh, it was a collective group effort to trade for Deshaun Watson, okay, guess what? We're going to point the fingers at you then. You don't want to pick one, Jimmy? It's on you. You can't build a brand new fucking dome and put shit product in it. How's it working out for the Raiders? How the Raiders doing in the Death Star? When have they had a productive game there? It's always events, college football playoffs. Other things are always, you know, taking center stage in their brand new stadium. I don't want the Cleveland Browns to get to Brook Park and be a shit product. I don't want the Cleveland Browns on the lake to be a shit product. I don't care if we have a couple years left. Demand better. At some point, draw the line. And it's frustrating, Tristan, because it's like, you can't put any stock in it. You can't really project. You know, I was having the conversation at work today, talking about how unpredictable the college football playoffs have been and how unpredictable the NFL has been as far as like the playoffs go. And it's like, yeah, it's a whole new game. If we would have went 10 years into the future or into the past when it was Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, you know, Ohio State, those teams making the playoffs, and I told you, hey, guess what? In 10 years, 5 to 10 years, you're going to be watching Indiana, Miami, Ole Miss, and Oregon fight for a national championship. You'd say I'm crazy. But you know what you wouldn't say I'm crazy for? If I told you the Cleveland Browns sucked the whole fucking time, bro. It never ends. It never fucking ends. And all I'm saying is that are we 2 years away from people just getting sick of it? Like, you lost a whole generation. Tristan, the generation under us does not care. about this team. They don't care about the future of this team. You have to rebuild that. All right, I'm gonna shut up, or I'm just gonna keep yelling.
No, you're good, man. You're good. Yeah. With that said, because I really don't have anything else to add there. I think you really put the nail in the coffin with that one. So let's move on from last season and up to kind of where we are at now, and let's talk about the future. And Derek, earlier today, this morning, Black Monday, it was announced that Kevin Stefanski was fired as head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and that the Browns would also be retaining Andrew Berry. Derek, I know this was personally what I was calling for, and I believe it's the same from you. And I want to start with you, Derek. What are your thoughts on the Browns deciding to move on from Kev and deciding to stick with Andrew Berry?
Well, yet another example of kind of behind-the-scenes info here. Texted Tristan late last night, and I said, I got a bad feeling about this. I got a bad feeling because they won, they're going to keep him. And on my drive to work with 92.3 on the radio, Kevin Stefanski has been fired. And Tristan, it's a weird feeling because, everything that I just said is not a positive, right? Like, I am not happy that Kevin Stefanski has to be fired. Key word there. I'm not saying I'm not happy that he was fired. I'm saying I'm not happy that he had to be fired. I'm not happy that this didn't work out. I'm not happy that we have to pay another coach. I'm not happy that we have to go through this song and dance again and hope that they get it right. I'm not happy about that. However, with that being said, at the end of the day, this is a wins and loss game. That's what it comes down to. It doesn't come down to any excuses. You can say all you want. Kevin Stefanski's been here for 6 years. 6 years. And he's an offensive mind. And within the last 2 years, you've had the worst offense in the NFL. It has not been really particularly close. And then outside of that, Tristan, we talked about it a little bit. A lot of the things that kind of went on, it was perfect storm for Kevin to have success, right? His offense, you have Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb there, you have the offensive line, and it got worse from there. You said it. That 2020 year was the peak. It was the peak. And, I understand, because there's this whole thing. It's very similar, Tristan. I don't know about you. It's very similar to the Baker situation, where you have people who are upset about getting rid of a guy like Baker Mayfield because he's the most successful thing you've had in a long time. I don't give a shit. I don't care. That's not the standard. The standard is not, hey, we've had a bad history and you've been the best. No. You don't get to win 3 games and then win 5 games and just continue to skate by. So, listen, at the end of the day, Kev, it sucks. It does. I wanted it to work. I wish it would have. I really do. Kevin Stefanski, by all accounts, nice guy, good dude. I wasn't... With Freddie Kitchens, it was different. I was, celebrating when we fired Freddie Kitchens, because it was this guy clearly can't even pretend to be a head coach in the NFL. It wasn't like that with Stefanski, right? Stefanski did provide us with a lot of good moments, a lot of good things. But at the end of the day, Tristan, when things run its course, it's run its course. When it's over, it is over. And there would have been no good bringing Kevin back next year. You bring him back next year, you lose 3 of your first 5 games, and then you fire him. What good does that do? So, I don't know. Like you said earlier, I don't really know how to feel. I'm happy. I'm happy that at least this offense is going to have a new identity. But at the same time, it's frustrating. It is frustrating as hell that here we are again. Last thing I'll say before I kick it back to you, Tristan. I don't think that there is a... I don't know. I don't want to say fear factor. That feels like the wrong way of saying it. But like back to when we moved on from Baker, I think there was a lot of people really scared of like, you know, what if we don't get a guy? What if he goes on and he becomes great? As far as that question goes, Tristan, I don't care. I wish Kev nothing but the best. I hope that he becomes a successful coach in the NFL. But at the end of the day, it wasn't going to be here. The type of coach that you have to be in a situation like that, he can't be anymore. He just can't. So I'll wrap it up with this. What I said with Baker is what I will say with Kevin. And if you don't like it, I don't care. This is my opinion. You don't have to agree. It wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work. If Baker would have stayed another year, another couple years, I don't think it would have worked. If Kev stayed another year, I don't think it would have worked. I don't. So I'd rather rip the Band-Aid off and let's hope and pray by some miracle they can get this right. But Kevin Stefanski, his time was done. So I guess thanks to Kevin for, you know, the positive memories. But, you know, at the end of the day, Tristan, a line has to be drawn. So here we are. How do you feel? Because we were both really big Stefanski guys. You kind of jumped ship towards the end of this year and drew your line quicker than me.
It was the Patriots game.
Yeah.
For Baker, it was the Packers game, Christmas Eve. For Kev, it was that Patriots game. So
yeah.
Just there are moments that you realize. You know, Derek, I want to touch on something that you talked about, which is the standard, right? Like, yes, Kevin accomplished a lot considering the fact that we haven't accomplished a ton in our history ever since we came back into the NFL. But Derek, they don't hang banners for that. They don't. That's not something that is going to be celebrated 20 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 50 years down the line. It's not going to matter. At the end of the day, the reason why we are invested in this sport, the reason why we are as hopelessly optimistic as we are, is not to have a 10, 11 win season. It's to win a Super Bowl. To have that moment where something that symbolizes us achieves greatness. Like that's what we want. And the reality is this is very much like the Baker Mayfield situation where yes, you're the best that we've had in a very long time. But at the same time, you're not going to win us a Super Bowl. Baker Mayfield was never going to take the Cleveland Browns to win a Super Bowl. It just wasn't going to happen. And I realized that on that New Year's Eve game. I realized that this is not a guy that's going to be able to win a Super Bowl. Even if he was injured. The stuff I was seeing, it wasn't just injury. It was his ability, and I'm not talking physically. With Kevin, after that Patriots game, I just realized he's not going to be a guy to deliver a Super Bowl to Cleveland. He just isn't. And it's really scary when we move on from people and we make these decisions, especially because hindsight's 2020 and everybody on the outside can say, and even on the inside can say that moving on from Baker Mayfield was a mistake. But at the end of the day, we were never winning a Super Bowl. Never. And that's what we have to realize for both of these decisions is I can compare Baker Mayfield to Patrick Mahomes. I can compare him to Josh Allen. I can compare him to Lamar Jackson, to all these other quarterbacks. He wasn't going to beat them in Cleveland, and he wasn't going to deliver a Super Bowl to Cleveland. I can't trust that Kevin Stefanski is going to be able to get past Andy Reid, that he's going to be able to get past Nick Sirianni, that he's going to be able to get past Sean McDermott. Like, I can't trust him to win and beat those teams on the way. I can't. And I don't even have hope or optimism anymore in that case. So in my mind, that was the right decision. It was absolutely the right decision. Because this can't be our standard. It can't be the reason why we stick with somebody is because they were good at some point. We have to strive to achieve greatness, because at the end of the day, if we don't, then it's not memorable. And none of these past years have been. And in 10 years from now, we probably won't think of it. We might think of that Pittsburgh game. Might. But I hope and pray that we don't. So, yeah. And that's in regards to Kevin. With Andrew Berry, it's complicated, man. Like, I completely understand why a lot of people wanted him gone and why a lot of people felt like it was time for a change there. I think the biggest difference between Kevin and AB is coming off of his best year, his absolute best. He has never had a draft class like this. Free agency, he knocked it out of the park. Some of the smaller signings didn't really do much, but at the same time, you got draft picks for like Joe Flacco. You got, you didn't do terribly, but in terms of your biggest investment in free agency, Malik Collins, it was a slam dunk home run. Amazing decision, amazing signing. So for me, it's different because I almost look at this as though you're firing Kevin Stefanski after he just took you to the playoffs and won you a playoff game. That's how I kind of view this. So is Andrew Berry the answer long term? I don't know. And I don't think that I can say with a ton of confidence that he will be, but I can say with optimism that I think it's potentially there. He's shown enough potential and he's shown enough that I can be optimistic. I can't be optimistic with Kevin anymore. I just can't. And I will also say, Derek, something that I saw a little bit of this on Twitter, and I really didn't think about it much. And then, like as the day has progressed, I kept on thinking about it more and more. I always found it odd how Kevin Stefanski was the guy for the Browns for back-to-back years. The one they hired Freddie Kitchens. We obviously know how that went. But then he was their guy again the next year. And nobody else was really in for Kevin. And he ended up getting the job here. And I also can't help but think about the fact that you had mentioned before, Derek, Andrew is now in power. And it's him and it's Jimmy Haslam. In terms of who has the more power and who's making the majority of decisions, who really knows? But we know that he right now is the highest, most influential person in terms of management. And I find it very, very odd. And I find it very interesting that his first decision is to get rid of Kevin Stefanski. And it makes me wonder about whose decision it was to bring Kevin on board. I don't know. I think there's a lot of interesting things that are going to evolve from this offseason, and that's a story in the background that I'm going to keep my eye on.
Don't you think we already know that answer, though?
Yeah.
It's baseball boy.
I think we do. I think we do.
Mr. Colorado. So, I don't know. I'm glad you brought... Were you finished? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, that was it for me. That was it.
I totally forgot about Andrew Berry. You had asked that also, so thank you for bringing it up. I agree with you on this. We were in agreement here. I also think keeping Andrew was the right decision, but like you said, it's so complicated, and I think it's complicated for reasons that people really don't understand, to be honest with you. It's not as black and white as he's had terrible draft classes. That's fair. He was a part of the Deshaun Watson trade in whatever aspect you want to put that in. That's fair, 100%. But also, you have to look deeper. Some things are not as plain and on the surface as you would like them to be. The way the Cleveland Browns are set up right now, at least for the next few years, 4 to 5 years, there's no other way to say it, Tristan. There's only a select group of people that know how to navigate and do what Andrew Berry has done. And that's not, I don't say that in a good way. I'm not saying that as if it's like he's some genius expert. What I'm saying is, with the restructures, with the void years, with all of those sorts of things, Andrew Berry, I don't want to say he's kind of guaranteed himself to stay there, but you have to go with this plan, right? There's no jumping off this ship. The Browns have rode this wave and this sort of philosophy on how they want to handle acquiring players and extending players, and the $230 million guaranteed contract that we have to deal with. The Browns have done this in a specific way so it doesn't hurt them as long as possible, basically. And at the end of the day, Tristan, there's just not a lot of GMs that you can just go get to fix that problem, right? And I'm not saying that Andrew Berry can fix this problem, but what you've said, his draft classes have sucked. Like, we just have to be real about it, right? In the past, they've not been great. This past year, Mason Graham has looked great, and I think people have been very unfair with Mason Graham, right? Because you take a defensive tackle top 5 and it's like, oh, he's got to be a dude. Sometimes with a player like him, it takes a little bit of time. I'm more than confident that Mason Graham is going to be a superstar. Schlesinger, great. Outstanding pick. One that I wouldn't have made, he did. Outstanding pick. We can kind of go down the line, right? Obviously, there's the Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, but he's coming off of his best draft. And I kind of disagree on the statement of the offseason. I think, like I said, some of the things they did, the offensive line, receiver room, those sort of things. But, I'm not here to nitpick on that. But when it comes to Andrew Berry, the main point I'm getting to right now, it's crazy to me that somehow Andrew Berry, throughout this whole thing, the Deshaun contract, all of this, the bad years, he's not just keeping his job, he's technically getting promoted, which is a wild statement. It's a wild statement. But I'll be honest with you, Tristan, it's to me the only saving grace we have right now, because Paul DePodesta is no longer in Jimmy's ear. You don't have a head coach. So if we're being real honest here, the people who are in Jimmy's ear are Andrew Berry and totally forgot his name, J.W. Johnson. Those are the two people that are in Jimmy Haslam's ear. And no disrespect to J.W., but I don't want him being the only voice in Jimmy Haslam's ear. So if that voice needs to be Andrew Berry, so be it. So be it. If Andrew Berry is the only one that I can look at with any sort of confidence, Tristan, at least I can say he's coming off of a great draft. The Tyson Campbell trade, Tristan, we didn't really get into it that much. That is highway robbery. They need to go put him in jail for what he did to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Greg Newsome doesn't even see the field hardly. He's not going to get extended, right? And the Browns flip-flopped him, and Tyson Campbell's playing at least at a really good starter level, I'd say, and you have him locked up for the next couple years. Highway robbery.
Yeah. And if they need to get out of that deal for whatever reason after next season, they can.
Yeah.
No penalty. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So between this kind of collection of things here, the question that you have to ask yourself, like if you're a Browns fan and you're going, how did Andrew Berry keep his job? A, you're riding his ship. This is his structure. This is his game plan on how this organization is being ran. And I'm not saying nobody else could do it, but what I am saying is it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard to get somebody who can navigate the cap and navigate, the restructures and everything that's been done. But again, Tristan, you can't fire your owner. You can't. And with DePodesta gone at this point, I think, we had this conversation when he was, took the job for the Rockies. I think you're going to find out that Paul DePodesta really had a lot of impact on Jimmy. And I think the fact that Andrew Berry is kind of filling that void gives me some optimism to be hopeful. But because I can already hear people listening to us saying this freaking out going, well, you're telling me that the head coach and GM duo that were supposed to be like this, which Jimmy, did you see his press conference today, Tristan?
I saw parts of it. Like mostly clips, but
weird.
Depending on what you'll bring up, yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Jimmy Haslam got very upset at the idea that the Browns are a dysfunctional organization, which, Jimmy, that's like me getting mad at somebody saying, nope, Sidney Sweeney won't be knocking on your door. Like, what are we talking about here? Everybody knows that the Cleveland Browns are a dysfunctional organization. So to get mad at that is insane. But the other part that I wanted to bring up with this, he made the point of, Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, they were this. Okay. If that's the case, how is this all going to shake out, man? Because Andrew Berry's now, you just said it. He's picking your coach. He's heading up this front to pick the next coach. So if him and Kevin were like this, allegedly, and, if Andrew goes out and picks this next coach, and he's ass, what does that say about Andrew Berry? So to your point, Tristan, it's very complicated. It's very complicated, but I want people to understand the reason for him staying is not as much, I guess, success. It's more of structure, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I could agree to that. I've said a lot about Andrew Berry in the past, specifically about the Deshaun trade and how earlier this year, I believe it was, Jimmy took full responsibility for that deal, and ultimately Deshaun told us no. We had a meeting with Baker Mayfield, and then less than a day after that, a $230 million fully guaranteed deal was made. I highly doubt that our GM had the bulk of the influence on that, but some people will make up their minds. But yeah, man. The other important thing, and I will kind of get into this in this is kind of a good transition, although it's not really. You're right, man. Andrew Berry's picking your next head coach, and personally, I think that there's a very strong possibility now that the Browns won't make a huge move at quarterback, because I can't say with confidence in a year from now that Andrew Berry for sure is going to be your guy. And if Andrew Berry is not going to be your guy, then the guy he hires certainly will not end up being your guy. And you shouldn't have to subject a rookie to that. So I almost think that this is a 1-year extension for Andrew Berry, and this is a prove it year. You have to prove it. And if he can, then we can make a bigger investment. But yeah, I guess I will pivot now, and we can kind of talk about the draft side of things. So, Derek, with the last 2 wins of the regular season, the Cleveland Browns ended up losing out on the first overall pick. I'm just going to let that sit. I'm going to let it marinate.
Yep.
They lost out on the first overall pick because they beat the Steelers, who, by the way, ended up beating Baltimore anyway, which, what a finish, by the way. What a game. So really that game ended up not mattering in the slightest. And then they ended up also beating the Cincinnati Bengals in probably the most meaningless game I have watched in quite some time. So, Derek, tell me how you feel.
If I told you how I feel, I would get banned off of YouTube, and this would, What a question, Tristan. How do I feel about winning 2 meaningless games to get a worse draft pick? You know what's worse than sucking, Tristan? Getting nothing for sucking is terrible. That's terrible. Now, what I'll say is this much. I'm not that mad that we didn't get number 1 overall. Like, I honestly, if we didn't really get to record a whole lot, but you know, if you would have talked to me a couple weeks ago, I would have told you, and Tristan, you know me, so you can back me up on this. I would have told you I don't want number 1. I don't. What I would tell you is I want to sit about 3, 4, right? Because at that point, you basically get your choice of anybody outside of the quarterbacks. And that's great. Now, how do I feel? I was more upset about winning after the game was over. But now that the dust has settled and Washington won, and now the Browns sit at 6 versus 7, we'll let that simmer. Yep. It is a little bit different. It is a little bit different. And I'm not trying to make a joke when I say this. I'm being serious. There is a big difference from being at 7 versus 6. Interesting. Yeah, get that smirk off your face. I'm gonna start laughing. The difference is the team's needs in front of you drastically change just by 1 spot. Think about how much the Browns gained by trading back from 2 to 5. That's 3 total spots, and you gained an extra first-round pick, an extra second-round. I don't remember what all it was, but whatever.
Yeah, it was early second-round pick and the first next year, and I think that was it.
Was that it?
I think.
Well, and
I
then
think so.
5. So, yeah, you get 5.
Yeah.
So, technically, yeah. So, you move back 3 spots to get an extra first-round pick and an extra second-round pick. That was early. Mm-hmm. So, think about how much these spots mean and how much desperation means. And by the way, that wasn't for a trade up for a quarterback, little buddy. That was for Travis Hunter, which nothing against Travis Hunter. He's great. I love Travis Hunter. But it's much different if we're talking about a, trade up for Cam Ward, right? That's different. Man. Anyway, so the draft. I don't know how to feel, Tristan, I'll be honest with you, because I think where I stand on the draft, I don't know about you, I'm locked in. Like, I know my direction. I know the plan that I think that I would do and what I think is best for the Browns. My concern is where we're sitting at 6. How's it going to go in front of us? There's so many questions. Arizona, major questions. Tennessee, questions outside of quarterback, obviously, but they could go any position. Any. They could go line, receiver, defense, whatever. All right? Sorry, I'm very long-winded tonight, but when it comes to how I feel about getting number 6, I'll put it to you plain and simply, Tristan. The Browns, if they do not leave the first round of the NFL draft with either Carnell Tate or Tyson, I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be pissed. And I don't want to go on and on because obviously we're going to talk about this all offseason. But I'll put it to you like this, Tristan. I have been pounding my head against the wall for years when it comes to wide receiver. Have I not?
You have.
Absolutely. You have. Tristan, we have kicked the can down the road. We've tried to figure it out with mid-round picks. We've tried all of this a bunch of different things. I understand Andrew Berry doesn't have a great track record at wide receiver, but I'll tell you what, regardless of the future for the Browns, regardless of the future at quarterback, GM, head coach, whatever, you cannot win in the NFL without a premier wide receiver. You can't. You can't. And Tristan, the price tag for him gets more and more expensive every year. You're sitting here at 6 with, again, we'll get into it more later. I think there's category 1, and it's Carnell Tate, and it's Jordan Tyson. I like Malachi Lemon, Makai Lemon, sorry.
Makai, yeah.
I keep messing that up. Makai Lemon. I like him a lot. I don't think he's in those two tiers. And if you're the Browns, Tristan, you've had the worst offense in the NFL the last couple years, or at least bottom tier offense. I don't care what you think about the quarterback. I don't care what you think about the Browns as a whole. You need a receiver. Like, I don't know how many times, I don't know how long I have to say it. You need a receiver desperately. Desperately. If this team goes into next year with Jerry Jeudy as their number 1 receiver, Tristan, what am I supposed to do with that?
I don't know, but you would have to be on a watch list by the Cleveland Police.
I need to be on a watch list now. That's what I'm trying to understand here. I'm trying not to lose my shit because I can already see them fucking this up. That's what pisses me off. That's what pisses me off.
Oh, it's going to be a great clip.
Nothing about it is wrong. Nothing about it is wrong. Because guess what, Tristan? I know it's not fair to put it on Andrew Berry, but guess what, man? Tristan Wirfs could have been a Cleveland Brown. You know? I've at least seen Andrew Berry try to pick an offensive lineman high. I've not seen him take a wide receiver high. And oh, by the way, again, me being long-winded, but here's the last thing I'll say. Everybody loves to say what they would like to do, and everybody wants to throw out names and throw out options. I think the Browns should do this. I think they should do that. You know what I like to do, Tristan? What I've learned these last couple years when it comes to doing this? How about we look at the trends? It's a copycat league. What's working? What's working? How do we get that? I don't know about you, but the last time I checked, there is a university about 2 roughly hours south of Cleveland, Ohio. And it just so happens that every single receiver they put in the NFL is succeeding. You have the chance to get one of those guys, and you're going to tell me with a straight face that you're going to pass. We've been desperate for an X receiver for how long? I'm sick and tired of trying to talk myself into Cedric Tillman ever being good. Go get Carnell Tate. Okay, he's gone. He goes to the Giants. Guess what? guess what? There's another guy. Cannot wait to spend this offseason talking about him. I know he's got the injury history. I know he's got the issues that he does. If the Browns draft Jordan Tyson, he would be what we wanted Odell Beckham Jr. to be. And I stand on that. You can't miss this opportunity. You can't. You can't. So, there's so much more that we'll talk about with this in the future, but Tristan, on January 5th, 2026 of this new year, I'm sitting here just begging. Please hear our cries. You haven't had a receiver since Jarvis Landry, and before that it was Josh Gordon. Oh, man, Tristan.
Yeah, man. And I agree with you that in order for this offense to really evolve, really take that next step and be able to facilitate what is needed to have a quarterback come in, especially a rookie, and thrive, you have to have a reliable number one wide receiver. You saw, and it doesn't necessarily even need to be for the duration of that quarterback's time in the city, right? Like, we can look at Patrick Mahomes, and he had Tyreek Hill, and having that option, having that guy available to him allowed him to elevate his game and grow, and bought him time to build up to be the guy that he became. Josh Allen had Stephon Diggs, and same type of situation. It allowed him an opportunity to have somebody that he could go to, and bought him time, and he got better. Both of those players don't have those guys anymore, but they're still great at what they do. Having an elite, Joe Burrow, he had to have elite weapons to be able to grow into what he is. So regardless of what you think and what you value the wide receiver position, we can look at it and we can say that quarterbacks, to truly be able to grow and to truly be able to improve, the best chance that you have of getting the absolute most out of that quarterback and giving him the best chance to be successful is to get him a legit threat at wide receiver. So I agree with you, Derek. This team needs to come away from the draft with Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson. Has to. I am still high on Mekhi Lemon. So I would be happy with him as well, but for sure those are my top two guys. And I think both of those guys are going to be legit number one wide receivers in the NFL. If both of them are off the board come 6, there's only one guy at that position that will make me at that spot, as long as he's available, that would make it digestible for me, and that's Caleb Downs. We talked about him. I could live with... I would still prefer us to walk away with Tate or Tyson, but if we can come away with Caleb Downs, Derek, that's a generational talent at that position. We've talked about him before. And there's something to be said about being able to walk away from a draft with guaranteed generational talent. And it's what you need. It's what you need to build a great team. Obviously, safety, it's not really like a critical position, but having a guy like Caleb Downs on this defense already takes it to a whole nother level. But regardless, we still would need a legit number one wide receiver. So that's one of those instances where you look at Andrew Berry and you say, what are you going to do? How are you going to do this? Because I'm with you, Derek. This team desperately needs its number one wide receiver. It also desperately needs an offensive line. And those are my top 2 priority positions in the draft. But if wide receivers off the board that early, I wouldn't mind falling back on Caleb Downs.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me with the draft and with the whole idea of, the question that we brought up, right? The positioning of where we're at. To me, it's about value. It's about value. And I understand. There's probably people, well, first of all, nobody's listening to this, but second of all, if there is anybody listening to this, they probably hear what I'm about to say and say, no, you need an offensive line. And that is the most important value. You're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying that at all. But what I will tell you is when it comes to positional value in this draft, Tristan, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're well worth spending the 6th overall draft pick on one of those two receivers than you are one of these tackles. And what I mean by that is I think, because another thing too, we have a pick with Jacksonville. I know they're great. I know they've turned it around. But we still have that pick. It's an extra first. So, Lemieux, or however you say bro's name from Utah, could be available. Blake Miller from Clemson, tackle, could be available. There are guys in this draft class on the offensive line. I don't think it's as top heavy as we've seen in the past. I think it's more of like a collective group, that it's decently strong. And for me, Tristan, if you tell me right now, hey, you have the choice to take an offensive lineman at 6 and he'll be good, like you can guarantee me he'll be good, or you can take an offensive lineman at 28 and it's more of a risk, but you get one of the receivers, I'm taking that all day, every day. All day, every day. Because at the end of the day, Tristan, regardless of what the Browns think they're going to do, there are certain things that they have to do. And wide receiver is one of those things. Right? I don't care. The Browns can go out and nail the head coaching hire. They can go out and nail the offensive line. If the current group we have at wide receiver is pitiful. It's pitiful. And it's been pitiful for years. So we'll save sort of the scouting side of it, because I have plenty to say on both of these guys, and I'm actually really excited to talk about them, and Lemon too. I don't take this as I don't like Mekhi Lemon. I actually really do like him. I just think it's more of a praise to what I think of Carnell Tate and what I think of Jordan Tyson. But yeah, I just, what I can't have happen, Tristan, is I can't take another Jedrick Wills. I can't. And I've said this before on this podcast. I'll say it again. Nobody will believe me. I don't care. But when the Browns took Jedrick Wills in that draft, I texted my friend at the time and I said, you know what they should do? They'll never do it, but they should draft CeeDee Lamb. Where would we be sitting today if we took CeeDee Lamb instead of Jedrick Wills? And I'm not saying that to say that I'm right. I'm just saying we have this idea that we can just skate by taking receivers in the 3rd round and taking flyers on guys. You can't. You can't. Jerry Jeudy, if he's going to be on this team next year, which I would bet that he will be, he cannot be wide receiver 1. He just cannot. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just so frustrating. What's frustrating, I've said this a billion times, but Tristan, as fans, we sit here and talk about this, and I say this over and over and over every single year. They don't do it. Here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, regardless, the two biggest positions of priority, regardless of what happens at 6, we've talked about it. This team needs to come out of this draft with an answer at wide receiver to potentially be that wide receiver 1, and it has to have major improvements on the offensive line, especially at tackle, because it's so desperately needed. We cannot walk away from this draft and not have answers at both of those spots. We have to. And listen, like, I'm open to us making a trade to solve one of, if not both of those issues prior to the draft, and then that's great. We can just pick best player available and have a great time. But the odds are one of, if not both of those positions are going to need to be addressed in the draft. So time will tell. We'll see what happens. And we'll also, I probably eventually, not today, we're going to talk about quarterback, because we're in a position where we could trade up for a quarterback. We could stay and pick. You know, there's a lot of different options in terms of the quarterback position, but we're going to save that for another episode, I believe. Derek, did you have any other final thoughts before we wrapped up today's show?
Yes, there's something very important we need to discuss, at least for a brief minute here.
Oh, yeah.
On Sunday, history was made. The only good thing probably to really come out of this season, your own Myles Garrett sets the NFL sack record. I will say off the top here, there's a lot of debate about it. I have my thoughts on it, but I'll let you go first, Tristan. I just want to say congratulations, Myles Garrett, for being the only successful thing to happen to the Cleveland Browns in who knows how long. Like,
Since Joe Thomas.
Dude, the fact that we took him number one over, like, I want people to understand. Chase Young had high expectations. Drafted number 2 overall. Bust. Absolute bust. And I watched that dude play in college with my own 2 eyes. And I can't explain why he's bust. Right? Myles Garrett, same thing. When he was coming out, like, this dude's going to be great. This dude, like, he's the guy. The Browns take him, and it works. And I know a lot of people are mad about the whole trade request and everything this offseason. Look around, people. Can you blame him? Can you blame him? If you are mad at Myles Garrett for requesting a trade, please tell me why. Please tell me why. So, congratulations, Myles Garrett. Round of applause to you, sir. Excellent player. Excellent dude. Love him.
Yeah, and shame on me for not even thinking to bring that up. The most important, the most amazing thing to come from this season, and I just although, to be fair, I am trying to erase this season from my memory. I think everybody can relate to that. So but yeah, props to Myles Garrett. Incredible achievement. Achieved the sack record in 100 less pass snaps than Michael Strahan. So for all of those who say he had the extra game, you know what, we're an hour and so in to this recording, so go suck one, right? As oh crap, what's his name? Stranger Things. Please tell me you watch Stranger Things.
Nope. Don't ask me.
Oh my god. Oh, Dipshit Derek was his nickname. I'm not even joking. That's his actual name, Dipshit Derek. And his iconic line is, "You can suck my big fat one." All right.
Oh, so, well, we got that in common at least.
So, he actually kind of looks like you.
All right. Good to know.
But yeah. So as Dipshit Derek would say, "You can suck my big fat one." To all those Steelers fans who have something to say about it, how about you actually talk about the fact that your team's in the playoffs? Congratulations. I know you absolutely love Mike Tomlin. This playoff achievement is going to buy you another 20 years of him, which I know all of you Steelers fans are so excited for. You don't feel like you're in purgatory at all. You are so excited for Mike Tomlin to stick around even longer, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Pittsburgh.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Suck my big fat one. Anyways.
I don't know. I just, Myles Garrett, to me, like, I don't know, man. There's just some people, like, if down the line, if I have grandkids, hopefully someday, Lord willing, I'll be sitting there talking about, you know who I saw in that stadium on the lake, that old one that fell apart? Yeah, you know who I saw? I got to see Myles fucking Garrett. Who do you get to watch, buddy? Like, I got to watch this dude. He's a... Bro, I don't think people understand. Like, to be the size that he is and move as well as he does, he is unreal. He is unreal. So...
Generational. It's a blessing to watch him. It's a blessing.
It is, and it's a curse that it's a curse that he was drafted to the Browns. I don't know.
I feel for him. I can't lie. But
I do too, but I tell you what, I don't know. Nope, I'm not gonna say it. I'll tell you when we're done. All right. Goodbye, everybody. See you, Kev. Thanks for the good memories. Kiss my ass for the bad ones. Adios.